Today, I'm 29 years old, and in a lot of ways, I feel very rich in my life. I'm marrying my best friend in about 3 months. I have a job that I feel very passionate about. And in a lot of ways, when I look at my life, I'm not too sure how I ended up here. But one thing that I can be sure of when I look back is one distinct decision that I made that isn't all that crazy. It's kind of funny filming this and hearing how I'm talking because this doesn't have anything to do with waking up earlier, working harder, or trying to cultivate something. And I know that I kind of feel like this intro kind of sounds like that. Like I'm gonna give you the secret sauce at the end of the video so that you watch it all the way through. But I remember about 3 years ago, I was living a life that I was very depressed in. In a lot of ways, you could look at my life back then and think he lives a very good life, to say. I had good friends. My job wasn't the best, but it was, editing and doing something I loved. But internally, I just felt like I wasn't doing the thing that I wanted to do. You know how a lot of us have this feeling in our gut that we want to be doing this thing, but it feels very far off, or it feels like we don't know what it is. I feel like in a lot of ways that is kind of what I was doing. So I decided I was going to get really honest with myself and ask a few questions. One of the most practical questions I asked was, if I keep doing what I'm doing right now, where will I be in 1 year? And then I kind of just blew that up, 5 years, 10 years, so on and so forth. And something I realized is I found that I lied to myself internally a lot. And I guess that looked like comparing myself to other people, saying oh, I'm doing better than they are, so therefore I don't really have to get out of my comfort zone and try to progress or try new things. And because of that, I pretty much stayed stagnant for a handful of years until my now fiance, but then just my friend, kind of told me, what am I living for? She was confused at what I was living for. It just seemed like I was going from thing to thing to thing, trying to find something to kind of itch the scratch that I felt in my soul. And I remember at that time I was editing for a big YouTuber. I was getting client work with big musicians, but I still felt pretty empty. And I remember there was a question or an opportunity in New York, and I was contemplating moving from California, where all my friends were, to go to New York. And it was funny because I felt like I was comparing the two, there's all this opportunity in New York, there's all these things that I can achieve in New York, but here in California, it's just, there's nothing. I have lived my life here, and I've dried up all of my opportunities, and now I have to go to the next thing. And I think I realized that a lot of us, I guess I can only speak about myself, I think I realized that I so often, when I'm feeling down, or when I'm feeling bored, or when I'm not really feeling creative, I'm always looking for the next thing to kind of light my mind, or my heart, or my soul, or my dopamine levels to kind of get me going again. But I think I realized that the answers aren't found in the next thing or the thing out there that I have to go achieve. They're usually found in the day-to-day things that I'm going through. Now, I know that sounds very stoic and I don't know, deep, but there's a lot of truth to it in life. 3 years ago, I decided to stop lying to myself, to stop trying to compare myself to others to make myself feel better, and be very honest with my situation. And in doing so, taking those things that I was struggling with and giving myself 1 year to progress them and breaking them down step by step. So for me, the biggest thing was consistency. I feel like now, and for a lot of you who may follow me on my other YouTube channel, you know that I do creative work as a full-time job. But I remember when I started out, it was really hard. For about 7 months, nobody watched, nobody listened, nobody really cared what I had to say. But it was cool because I didn't let that get to me, because I made a decision that I'm just going to stick with this for 1 year. And in 1 year, I'm going to assess it and see how I'm doing. Not the day-to-day assessing, not the day-to-day oh, this isn't going well, nobody's watching. I didn't look at any of the metrics I did look at the metrics, but I didn't allow them to change my perspective. I decided that I'm going to be honest with myself, and I'm going to be consistent with myself for 1 year. And then at the end of that year, come back and see where I'm at. And that genuinely changed my life. Now, it didn't just change my life with YouTube and work, but also with the depth of the relationships that I have. Now, I think this was the biggest thing that changed my creative outlook, that changed the way I make stuff, is that I stopped trying to be the cool person, and I started being the open and the honest person and sharing how I felt with other people. And I think something I learned in all of this is that there's 1,000 cool people out there. There's 1,000 people better at you than something. And I think the best thing that we can do, which I'm still learning how to do this, is to be authentically ourselves, which is very hard in today's world. Mainly because we are bombarded with things that work, and we take those things that work and we compare them with the thing that we're going through. And oftentimes we view the thing we're going through as the lesser than. And we view this thing, which is working metrically for other people, and we say that is the correct way. But I think that's an interesting perspective, because I think a lot of us know the type of people who are honest, who are genuine, and when they come into our life, we find ourselves gravitating towards them. And so I remember just wanting to be that person, not allowing myself to lie to myself or to other people. So when people ask me, what do you do? I would just say, I'm trying to make videos. I didn't try to embellish it or make it something it wasn't. I would just be honest and share. Now, in my perspective, this video seems like it's kind of all over the place, but I guess in summary, what I'm trying to say is I think it's really important for ourselves to be very honest with where we're at. And if there's shortcomings, to not take those shortcomings and use them against ourselves, but to actually use them as places of new beginnings. So for example, if you want to start going to the gym, that's a very generic example, but if you want to start going to the gym and you notice that you haven't been going to the gym, not using that as a thing to feel guilty about, but actually, how can I start implementing small ways to see small changes? As I look at the job I'm doing and how much I love it, the friendships in my life, and also the fact that I'm getting married to my best friend in a few months, I often wonder how did I get here? And the number one thing that I can kind of point to is looking back, at around 3 years ago, when I felt like I was at my lowest emotionally, and I just realized that I started to get really honest with myself and challenge myself, and stayed consistent in those challenges and in those times of honesty with myself. So I think that was really cool, and I just wanted to make a YouTube video sharing all of that information. If you guys know me from my other channel, you might feel like this is a massive change, but I think this is honestly, I want to create a space where I can just share and talk about things, because I feel like I do talk about this stuff in my other videos, but I want it to be less cinematic and less like packaged in a way for the YouTube algorithm, and more, I just want to share honestly and without a lot of edits. And if 10 people watch this, that's great. If 100,000 people watch this, that is crazy. And if 100,000 people are watching this, I feel very vulnerable right now, but I think it could be cool to have a series like this. And if you have questions or thoughts or topics that you want me to just kind of chat about, I think that'd be really awesome. I'm going to get better at not saying I'm going to get better at just looking in front of the camera, but I had to just start. So this is the video where I'm just starting. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one.